many people like furry animals? All right. How many people like scaly animals? Good, oh, quite a few. How many people like animals with hard shells on the outside? I'm not seeing so many arms with those, but these guys are. Okay,
Is there anybody here who doesn't like animals? No.
This is the
That's-
wrong program for you then.
That's right. You would have been in the wrong place. You're all in the right place.
What, this is a bingo?
You know, we actually don't do bingo here. Isn't that amazing? A lot of senior centers, bingo is big, but not here. It just doesn't seem to go.
Do you guys play bingo sometimes? You do? We gotta go over by you. We gotta go train you on bingo.
Although there is one group here, I take that back, there's one group that plays bingo for chocolate. Do you get chocolate when you play bingo?
One yes, and a whole bunch of no's on that.
So how many people here like to play cards? We do a lot of card playing here. Yeah, that's one of the things we do a lot of.
Does anybody like to dance? Ooh, we do some dance exercise here too.
We do. Does anybody like to lift weights? Oh, you like to lift, what a great group this one is.
We got a lot of
I like lifting weights too. Yeah. That has nothing to do with animals.
I'll let you steal her.
So how many of you guys down here think people live in this building? Yeah, because a lot of people think a senior center is a place where people live, but it's not. It's a community center for, older adults, people like your grandparents' age. They come here and they play games and they eat lunch and they come to programs like this. So it's really a community center for older adults, like me. But I work here. So I'm here, I'm just wasting this. We got one more minute before it's time to start. Heaven forbid should we start.
What do you want to do for a minute, Bob? I don't know what to do. We could probably start.
Yeah,
Do
you
you
can
want us to start? I think we could do 1 minute at a time. Thank you so much for having us, everyone. We are so excited to be here. From Henry Viola Zoo. Give me a thumbs up if you've ever been to Henry Viola Zoo before. It's a great zoo. It's right here in Madison. It's beautiful and it's outside. It's free. Lots of great things going on at our zoo. Well, I think the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce myself and my really good friend behind me. I will tell you a little bit about our program today, and then give you a couple guidelines just for when we have some of our favorite animal friends out. And then we're going to jump right in and start with some fun animal adventures. So first off, let me start by introducing ourselves. Today I have with me my really good friend Bob. Everybody say, hey Bob. Hey Bob. And my name is Darcy. Everybody say, howdy Darcy. Howdy Darcy. And we are educators at Henry Viola Zoo. So we are teachers. We're kind of like teachers at your school or your camp counselors here. Welcome everybody. Just 1 second. How are you guys? It's so nice to see your faces. So we are kind of like teachers at a school, except we have the privilege of getting to talk all about the different animals at the zoo. We get to teach all about the animals at our zoo. We get to teach about animals that live all throughout our world. We get to teach about superpowers, their animal adaptations. We all have superpowers that make us who we are. Sometimes we're really good at dancing. I saw some dancers over here. Sometimes we're really good at dancing. Sometimes we're really good at bingo. Sometimes we're really fast readers. Sometimes we can be really fast runners. All of these things are things that help us become us. Our animals have really similar adaptations that help them live in their native habitats. So it could be a way that they can find their food. It could be a way that they play hide and seek. Maybe it's a way that they hide from a predator. It could be a way that they say hello to a friend. All of these things make up who they are. So today, we're gonna focus a little more on our animal adaptations, things that help us be who we are, things that help our animals become who they are. So again, it's our job to teach all about these animal adaptations. It's our job to teach about where these animals fit into their habitats, and it's also our job to teach about conservation, how we can help these animals and make sure that they have a home for years and years and years and years to come. So that is what Bob and I do at the zoo. Today, like I mentioned, we're gonna focus a little more on animal adaptations, things that help them survive and find food and hide in their native habitats. But we can answer some questions and talk about a few more things too. Today, we have brought some of our animal ambassador friends with us. Anybody have any idea what an animal ambassador might be at Henry Valley Zoo? It's kind of a big word for us younger audiences. Animal ambassador, anybody have an idea? Are you ready for this? Animal ambassadors are kind of like mascots of our zoo. Give me a thumbs up if you've ever heard of Bucky Badger. Lots of us know who Bucky Badger is. We live in Madison. Bucky Badger is the mascot of the University of Wisconsin. That is who represents all of the students, young and old, that have gone to the University of Wisconsin in Madison. Our animal ambassadors are kind of like mascots because because they get to represent our zoo. They are the animals that get to come out into programs just like this. They get to teach all of our campers when they come into the zoo about who they are and what they're all about. So they are teachers at our zoo, just like Bob and I are. They are used to coming out in big groups such as yourselves. They are used to being handled by Bob and myself, and they're used to being teachers. So they are the perfect animals to come on a program such as this. So today, Bob and I are each gonna take turns kind of showcasing our favorite animal ambassador. We are probably gonna take each animal out and maybe, I don't know, talk for maybe 5, 7, 8 minutes and tell you all of the really fun things that make this animal who they are. Once we are done talking about each animal, we will answer some questions. So for our younger audience, how do we show our teachers at school? How do we show them that we have a question when we're at school? We're gonna raise our hand. That's perfect. We're gonna raise our hand. And that way I know you have a question, and Bob knows you have a question, and his favorite animal friend knows that you have a question, and we all can listen. If we all shout out our questions at the same time, it makes it really hard for our animal friends to hear what you're asking, and it makes it hard for us to answer the question. So we'll make sure we raise our hand. We'll answer, I don't know, a few questions. Maybe we'll have time for 3 questions in between each animal, and then we'll move on to our next animal. If at the end of our program you still have questions and we didn't get to call on you during our little question time, Bob and I are happy to answer questions as we're packing up in a little bit at the end of our program too. So we'll make sure that we raise our hands. We'll talk for about 5 minutes and answer some questions and then move on to our next animal. The next rule is really, really important. Our next guideline really helps our animals feel comfortable. Cool and calm and quiet is the name of our game today. We are gonna be really calm and quiet when we have our animal friends out. Our animals get nervous just like we do. I know Bob hears this every week. I get nervous every time I come and talk in front of a group of people. I feel the butterflies in my belly, and I get a little nervous talking about all the things. Our animals can feel the same way. So Bob takes out his favorite animal friend, and we get kind of squiggly or start tapping our water bottles or start whispering to our friend and telling jokes. Our animals get kind of nervous and they might not want to stay out for the whole time. They will show us. Bob and I can't speak a lot of the different animal languages, but we're trained to know when they're not feeling great, when they're feeling kind of tense, and when they're feeling kind of nervous, and we'll be able to tell that they maybe need a break and need to go back into their little travel carriers. So cool and calm and quiet. If we are calm and quiet and when we have our animals out, they will show you how they hide and how they find their food and how they say hi to their friends and all of the adaptations that make them amazing. So calm and quiet, and we'll do a quick reminder in between animals, especially if it's an animal that might have a little more squiggle value, a little more shock value. Our plan today is that when we take out our animals, we'll walk fairly close to everybody and give you a really close-up view of our animals. If we take something out and you're like, I kind of want my bubble to be bigger, just give us a thumbs down, and Bob and I will make sure we give you some space and not come and crowd you. And that way we're not making big, huge movements and sounds and making our animals nervous today. Any questions? Yeah.
What if you want to hold one of them?
So holding, we get this question a lot. Are we gonna hold and are we gonna touch? Today, our program is just looking. We're gonna do a looking program, but we're gonna get really, really close so that you can get a really good idea. We want you to be the scientist, so we want you to come up with some ideas about what their adaptations are, what their superpowers are, and what helps them find food and hide. So we're gonna get really, really close, but we're not gonna hold and we're not gonna touch today. Bob and I have gone through a lot of training to be able to hold these animals and handle these animals. And we start with little tiny critters and work our way up to bigger ones that maybe need a little more attention when we're handling. So that's why Bob and I are just gonna be the ones to handle. Do you have another question?
Yeah.
Yes.
What if it was like a puppy or a kitty?
A puppy or kitty would be a fantastic animal ambassador to come and teach. We did not bring any puppies and kitties today, but it doesn't mean that that's not going to be one of our future animals that we bring. I think that that would be fantastic. Do you have a puppy or a kitty at home?
I have a dog.
You have a dog. They would make fantastic animal ambassadors. I agree. That's a really good question. All right, one more question, and then we're moving on. Yeah, be in the back.
I don't know how to handle small animals and hold them.
It's so nice when people come in. She knows how to handle some small animals and she knows how to hold them. We have a lot of guests, a lot of people that participate in our programs that have maybe some animals at home that they've been practicing with and caring for. And that makes you a perfect, maybe someday you will come and you will volunteer with me and Bob at the zoo. Maybe you'll be on the road with us someday, which would be fantastic. That's something to think about. All right, are we ready to jump in? So first, I'm gonna give you a really short history lesson of Henry Violet Zoo. Are you ready? Henry Violet Zoo opened in 1911, way back in 1911. When we opened up, so it was donated first. We have about 25-ish acres of land at Henry Violet Zoo. It was donated by William and Anna Violet, who donated the land in honor of their son, Henry. Imagine if your parents were like, we're gonna open up a zoo and we're gonna name it after you. That would be amazing. That would be so much fun. So, Henry Violet Zoo, way back in 1911, when we opened up our doors to guests, we dazzled our audiences with, we had a herd of white-tailed deer, we had a pack of wolves, we had a bunny, and we had a couple of raccoons that were on display. And so people walked into our doors all excited about our zoo, and they were like, what am I looking at? These are things that we can see when we're on a hike or in my own backyard in Wisconsin. We want to see something different. Back in 1911, it was much more about the spectacle. It was much more about the exotic animals that you couldn't see every day. So our zoo quickly turned into something similar to what you see today, where we have lions and we have tigers and we have bears. Oh my. So lots of different, more exotic animals that you can't necessarily meet when you're on a hike here in Wisconsin. As you can imagine, our standard of care has changed a ton since 1911. Hopefully when you're walking through our zoo today, you'll know, well, way back in 1911, it was about basic necessities. We were there to give our animals food, water, shelter, and we didn't really put a lot of thought into anything else. Fast forward to today, and the standard has changed a lot. We do a lot of research on what animals use in their native habitats, what other zoos, other AZA, Association of Zoos and Aquarium Zoos, are doing to provide healthcare and to provide toys and treats and to provide the perfect environment for all of their animals. So we really put a lot of time and effort into that. So as you're walking through our zoo today, hopefully you notice lots of larger spaces, lots more natural enrichment like sand and dirt and water and logs and rocks, things that animals need and love in their native habitats. And then a lot of human-made enrichment, kind of like things like this. Just a ball. Something that an animal might think is really funny or interesting, something that they hopefully would not see in their native habitat. Our turtles and tortoises, especially our small ones, love little balls like this just to push around and kind of play with in their habitat. So we brought one today for one of our friends. With this new push for a different standard of care comes Bobbinite. So it's also been a big push for education, and especially education and conservation, what we can do to help these animals. So today, while we're focusing on our animal adaptations, we're also gonna focus on how we can help these animals, what kind of trouble they're in their native habitats, and what we can do as humans. Because sometimes it seems like a really big issue, but if we start small, we can make a big difference. Are we ready for our first animal friend? I see Bob getting ready. If we're ready for our first animal, say yeah.
Yeah.
All right, here we go, Bob. I think I'm ready. Oh.
Say hello to Thelma.
Hi, Eleanor.
Thelma is an ornate fox turtle. Now, when we look at the names for animals, it usually gives us some idea of their special adaptations. So if we call Thelma ornate, that means when we clean her up, her shell is very pretty. And because we call her a box turtle, well, that's a little harder. She doesn't resemble a box by any means. And I don't know if I can sneak through here. Yeah, I'll give it a try. So we call her a box turtle because she has a special adaptation. If you look at her top shell, that's called the carapace, and the bottom shell is called plastron. And on her bottom shell, she has a hinge, like a trap door. So if she's scared or alarmed by a predator, she can tuck her head in and close her bottom shell so that she's completely protected. You can see she's a very curious animal. She's not hiding. She's as curious as you are. And if you look at her closely, look at her feet so that you can answer a question or two that I may ask you. Get up here. I don't think I can walk between these rows here. Look at how she's looking down at you. She is so curious. She would love to get down on the carpet and say hello to all of you. But she's also a little bit frightened by so many faces. Now, we looked at her feet, and the reason I ask you to look at her feet is because some turtles live in the water and they swim wherever they want to go. Usually those turtles have webbed feet. Well, guess what? Thelma does not have webbed feet. What does she have? Claws. So that suggests that Thelma likes to dig. And in fact, she digs for worms, bugs, Almost all of her food she will find when she digs. So, here's another interesting fact. Thelma is native to Wisconsin. How many of you seen a turtle like this? Don't raise all your hands at once. There's a couple. She's native to the southwest part of the state. And well, the question would arise, okay, we know that some of the water-loving turtles will dig into the side of a bank and go into a deep torpor or hibernation in winter. But Thelma's not a water-loving turtle, so that's where those claws come in handy. She'll actually dig down into the dirt. Some research suggests that she will dig down 6 feet. And then, through some senses we are only remotely aware of, she knows when to start climbing up when spring warms up the soil. So, other things to know about Thelma. When I touch her shell, she feels that, just like we would feel our skin. Her shell is made up of the same keratin as our fingernails. And we must always remember that if you see a turtle in the wild, don't pick up the turtle. If you want a turtle as a pet, you should go to a pet shop, a reputable dealer. Another thing, now Thelma, do you think Thelma can crawl out of her shell? No, yes, maybe, no. And Darcy will show you the bottom side of the shell, and you can see that Thelma's backbone is attached to her keratin in her shell. Okay, so do we have any questions about Thelma? Yes. Yes. But what that means when she tucks in her head, that usually means she's frightened or afraid. And we don't want our ambassador animals to be afraid. So she's not afraid. She's looking at you all over, either checking out for lunch or just for a friend. Question? Oh, good question. How long do they live? Well, when we got Thelma at the zoo, from another zoo, she was already over 20 years old. And that was in 1999. So if you have a turtle like Thelma as a pet, you better be prepared to have her for a good long time. She can live 50, 60 years. And as some of us know, some of the giant land tortoises can live up to 200 years. So turtles as a species generally live a long time. Question?
If she really, really wanted to, like, for survival, could she swim?
Short distances, maybe. But generally, if you threw her in the lake, she would sink to the bottom. So there's a big difference between water-loving turtles and land turtles. Sometimes we use turtles if it's a water-loving species, and tortoise if it prefers the land. Any other questions over here? Yes.
6 feet down would be difficult to breathe.
Good question. So if she's 6 feet down, how does she get oxygen into her body? first of all, her metabolism slows down to almost nothing. It might be, almost undetectable heartbeat. And she, it's mostly that slowing down the metabolism. There are almost no ways to take a breath 6 feet down. The research is probably a little sketchy on that, but it's primarily for that reason. Do we have any other research to indicate how they maintain life under those conditions?
Hibernation is so crazy because really, even for like a bear, they just completely slow down. All their functions are so slow that they don't have to eat, they don't urinate or defecate, like just everything in their body really slows down to protect all of their organs so they can make it through that period of inactivity. So I'm not sure if they store oxygen in their cells. I'm not sure how it happens because it's deep in there. We have maybe Bob already said, we have 7 box turtles that live outdoors at Henry Riley Zoo. They were part of a breeding program for the DNR. We love to live, so many of these animals, humans get in the way, of course. We love to live in the same types of environment as box turtles, that oak savanna kind of sandier soil. It's great for raising crops. It's a great place for us to build our homes. And so the 7 that we have that are outdoor are they were part of a breeding program where we took breeding pairs out of their native habitats, gave them a special place, a nice safe place for them to lay eggs. We raised their babies until they reached a certain point where we believed that they could survive. And then we brought them out to areas that were protected, hoping that they would think of that as their nesting ground and come back to that spot to lay their eggs. Turtles are kind of funny because they learn instinctively, this is where I was born, this is where I have my babies. So when they leave and come back to lay eggs many years later, it takes them a really long time to get that maturity. Hopefully there's not something built up in its place.
Another thing to be aware of, if you encounter a turtle crossing the road, they are very stubborn. They know where they want to go. So pick up that turtle and direct them in the direction they're going. Do not try and turn them around and to go back where they came from, because they will turn around and go the way they want to. Questions?
Yeah, just elaborating on that, you said also not to pick up turtles, so then how would you best direct a turtle in the direction it needs to go?
It's a really good question.
I was, good question, yeah. Obviously, if that turtle's life is in danger, it's wise to pick them up. The caution would be snapping turtles. Very careful, they have extremely powerful jaws.
You see this crossing the road. I've heard of people that, if it's safe to do so, I've heard of grown-ups using their floor mats of their cars to pick them up so that they have it, because they can be heavy, like it is crazy, but just to support their body weight and just hold them from the bottom of their shell, because snapping turtles have that really long neck that can come around, and they don't know that you're trying to help. They just know that you were picking them up, and that's not what is supposed to happen when you're a turtle.
Yeah. Okay, say goodbye to Thelma.
That's so good. Which out of these two would you like to? Okay. All right. Pick that one. Bob's picking all the keys and buttons, which I totally get. All right, are we ready for this one? This one can get, I'm gonna come on this side because of the way she is laying in this very, what do you think, elephant?
No.
Giraffe?
No. Snake. Snake.
Maybe something that looks like a snake. Yes. Everybody say hi to Myrtle. Hi, Myrtle. Myrtle is a blue-tongued skink. So I'm gonna try and hold her so that everybody can see one of her best adaptations in the wild. So I'm gonna walk around and kind of give you a close-up view. I won't get too close. But let's see, I'm gonna give everybody just a minute to just quietly observe. I'm gonna walk the room and let everybody look with their eyes and think of something that they wonder about when it comes to Myrtle, our blue-tongued skink, who's like, I don't wanna be in your arm that way. All right, I'm gonna walk her around. Let's see what you think. So maybe it is a way, maybe you notice your tongue. Blue-tongued skink, remember when Bob says that sometimes they hide their adaptations or their superpowers in their name? Maybe it's a blue tongue. Let's see if anybody else sees it. She's like, I'm gonna be shy. I'm gonna hang on here. Let's do this. I'll do this. Come around so everybody can see. Oh, there. She's beautiful. All right, coming around so everybody gets a good view. So what could she be doing with it? She's a blue-tongued skink. And her name's Skink. Yep. And her name is Myrtle. All right, coming around here. Get to her side. There she is one more time. Coming around to the side. All right. What do we think about adaptations for Myrtle? What could some of her superpowers be? Knowing that sometimes they hide superpowers in their name. Anybody raise their hand and tell me? All the way in the back. What do you think?
Maybe it's that she can breathe in a lot of air because her mouth and like the side of her head have like these little holes.
Oh my gosh, maybe she can breathe in a lot of air. I love that idea. I love that observation. So Myrtle, when she is feeling threatened by something, she can take up a lot of air and she can kind of puff herself out and make herself look a little bit bigger than she normally is when she's just like hanging out in the sun and relaxing. So I think that is a great adaptation to make yourself look a little bigger. Sometimes when I'm feeling nervous about something, or sometimes when I'm like, all right, I got this, and try and get a little more confident, I find myself kind of sitting up a little bit more and like making myself puff up a little bit bigger. That's a great adaptation for Myrtle, to make herself appear bigger than she is. Hopefully a predator, maybe a bird, or maybe a big mammal that comes and sees her is like, I really do like the taste of blue-tongued skink. I think it tastes like pancakes, but she looks really big, and I'm not sure I want to mess with her today. That would be a great adaptation, just making yourself look a little bit bigger. What else did we notice about Myrtle when we got a good close-up view? What did you notice, buddy? Did we come back? There. How about her neighbor next to you? Why does she have a blue tongue? I was waiting for someone to ask that. So blue-tongued skink, like we talked about, a lot of our animals will hide that superpower or that adaptation in their name, a blue-tongued skink. Most of the time as humans, when we stick out our tongue at someone, that's thought to be bad manners. That means that you are not behaving in the way that you should be behaving as a human. But for Myrtle, it helps her navigate her environment. She can kind of stick out her tongue almost like a snake and kind of sense things and maybe smell things in her environment. But the biggest reason she has a blue tongue is for her adaptation to protect herself. Blue in the wild is seen as being kind of a danger color. It's a really bright color, it's uncommon. So when other animals see that bright blue tongue come out of Myrtle, they're like, what is that? What is going on? that makes me not feel very safe, I don't want to get very close. So that is a signal of danger. So when Myrtle sticks out her blue tongue and she gets nice and big and puffy, hopefully that's enough that a predator won't make her into a big, nice blue tongue skink snack. So that blue tongue can really help her with her protection. I love that. So it's not rude. She's not sticking out her tongue at you to be rude. She's just trying to show you that she's a blue tongue skink and she can hold her own. Don't eat her. Yes. What does she eat? Skink, I think that she is omnivorous. She's an omnivore. Does anybody know what an omnivore might be? I am an omnivore. What do you think? Something that eats plants and meat. So I love to eat cheeseburgers, but I also love to eat my broccoli. Myrtle is very similar. She likes to eat her vegetation, she likes to eat little salads, but then she also likes to eat mealworms and crickets and things like that at the zoo. So an omnivore. She's not just a carnivore or an insectivore where she only eats insects or only eats meat and fish. And she's not an herbivore that's just gonna eat her veggies. She's gonna eat a little bit of both. That's a really good question. Any other questions or observations about adaptations? Yeah. What animals hunt her? I bet Bob can tell you specifics, but I think it is going to be birds of prey. Any big bird that can fly above her and see her. Hopefully though, she'll have something that helps her blend in. When we think about Myrtle and think about where she might live, do you think that Myrtle blends in with the bright green trees of the bright green leaves of a tree? I don't think so either. Do you think that she's a swimmer? So she probably doesn't go to water for protection. What do you think her skin might camouflage into? That's a big science word. What do we think? Yeah, what do you think? Kind of a sandy environment. So Myrtle is from Australia and she likes to live in sandier dirt. So that those scales on her back can really help protect her. It can help keep moisture in her body and it can help her camouflage, that special word for hide and seek. Everybody say camouflage. Camouflage. And then whisper down your toes, camouflage. And look at your neighbor and say camouflage. Camouflage is going to be really, really important. So that really special hide and seek that our animals are able to do to hide from any predator, anything that wants to eat her, or hide from any food, right? She's going to want to be sneaky when she sneaks up on her bugs. Great question. How about one more question, then we'll move on to another animal. Yeah.
How long does she live?
How long does she live? Does it say? I don't know how old Myrtle is. I get that too, Mom.
15 to 20 years. Now, almost without exception, our animals under human care will live longer than they do in the wild. There are no predators in the zoo. We feed them every day. We're kind to them. And they just live longer because of all the care we provide them.
So I think she was hatched in 2015. What does that put her at? 9? She's 9? Keep going. And she does shed. Another one of her great adaptations, kind of talking about shedding and maybe something that she likes to mimic with that big blue tongue. The way that Myrtle gets herself into trouble in her native habitat is that she looks an awful lot like a snake. And in particular, a snake that's called the death adder, which is a venomous snake. So when we as humans come in contact with a blue-tongued skink, we often look at her, especially when maybe she's using those big long nails to kind of burrow, make a tunnel, and she's hiding half of her body, including her tiny, tiny little legs in the dirt. When we look at her face, it's kind of that triangle face of a snake. And so we as humans see her and think, oh my gosh, that's a really big venomous snake. We need to get rid of her. So there's a lot of education going on between what a snake looks like and what she looks like, but she does a really great job kind of mimicking what that death adder might look like, especially with those tiny little legs that are difficult to see when they camouflage into the dirt or when she's hiding them in her little burrow. So she does shed similar to a snake, but she sheds kind of individual scales, more like a lizard. So she'll shed and kind of get a lot brighter, a lot smoother, a lot shinier. And we're always really mindful of that when we are going to use her for a program, making sure that she's not shedding because we want her to be super comfortable. Sometimes animals will act a little more uncomfortable when they're going through that shedding process. All right, how about one more question, then we'll move on to our next cute as a button animal. Any questions? Yeah, did you think of it? You can always come and whisper it to me at the end too, if you want to do that. You want to whisper it? I love it. We can do a whisper question for sure. How about you, buddy? Why does it look mad? Do you think she looks mad? Oh no! This is just Myrtle being Myrtle. This is what she looks like when she's relaxed. I can tell that she is feeling very calm around all of you and confident around all of you. She's not squiggling away. She's not tense at all. Remember how we talked about sometimes when we get nervous, you can feel tense? Her body does not feel tense at all. And I see her little head moving around and looking at people. So I know just based on that, this is Myrtle at her best. This is Myrtle being super comfortable and confident where she is. She knows she's not gonna be eaten. She knows that she's just hanging out. So that's just her face. I think it's kind of cute. All right, does everybody want to say bye to Myrtle? She is so cute. I agree. There she goes.
Our next animal is mammal, so it should be soft and furry and cuddly, right? Not always. So if it's a mammal, but it's not soft and cuddly.
It is. We get a lot of comments about what we carry our animals in. These are all modified with holes in them.
Yeah.
They make for the perfect travel carriers for our animals because they're nice and protected. They hold heat and they hold cold. So for some of our mammals, we'll use cat and dog carriers, and a lot of them are trained to transition into them on their own.
So his name is William. Does that give a clue to you? Plus this. Come out, wherever you are. I want to be able to show you very shy. Is it back end? Come on, William.
So Quilliam is doing what he likes to do best this time of day because Quilliam is nocturnal. Does
Okay.
everybody know what nocturnal is? Bob's going to tell you all about why Quilliam does not want to come out.
I don't want to frighten him.
Right. For sure.
Yes.
So, William is an African pygmy hedgehog. Now, some of you children have seen Disney movies, and there's a hedgehog, and what is the name of that hedgehog in the movie? I forgot too.
Sonic.
Sonic.
Have you ever seen Sonic or heard of Sonic?
So, as I mentioned, Sonic has wheels. So cute. We're gonna walk around as much as I can. The question is, Has he ever tried to chew you like gloves? No. We're very kind to our animals, as I mentioned before.
Let's go back to sleep.
Okay, he's getting a little bit squeamish.
I'm right here. Want me to walk? You
Yeah.
wanna walk? You want me to walk? Okay.
Wow. So, yes, William has quills, but they're not like a porcupine. They don't release their quills. They don't have barbs. Nevertheless, they do offer the animal some degree of protection against predators. And that's very important. So Quilliam can also roll up in a ball. Any children roll up in a ball? Sort of. And Quilliam would have his head in the center of that ball. He has strong muscles to keep his head protected. So the other things we need to know about Quilliam is he is primarily an insectivore, meaning he eats insects. Oh, now he's moving around a lot.
Should I be offended? He loves to smell things.
Oh,
Like, I'm active now.
his nose is always moving. He has a very strong sense of smell. And he uses that smell to detect his food and also to determine if there are predators nearby that may want to make a meal out of him. He has some special adaptations. He is partially immune to snake venom, scorpion venom, and that makes him able to tolerate the bite from small snakes and scorpions. So I think I mentioned that he's African, from Africa, primarily around the central part of Africa, east to west. He, you might wonder how he is born with quills. The quills, when his mother gives birth to him, are very soft and pliable. And he's covered with a membrane, so it isn't really a problem. Some of the other things to remember about William is that the special adaptations enable him to survive in a somewhat harsh environment with predators all over the place. And he can also use his fantastic sense of smell to find his food. If you look at him as Darcy brings him around, his nose just never stops moving. He has a fantastic sense of smell. It's hard for us humans, which we have such weak sense of smell, weak eyesight. It's a good thing we're smart, because otherwise we would never survive.
Everything smells so good.
So do we have any questions about, yes?
Doing his best job smelling.
I believe it's keratin, the same as your fingernails. Yeah. Yep. It's the common material in the animal world. Any more questions? Well, over here. Oh, good question. How long does William live? Oh boy, I gotta refresh my memory on that.
So they're always going to be tiny.
Remarkably short lifespan. 2 to 3 years in the wild, but 8 to 10 under human care. Again, animals have so much competition for food. They have to stay alive, avoid predators. And the hedgehog is another adaptation. That is because they live in subsistence, arid sort of, meaning in the area between no water and some water. So they have droughts to contend with. And when there's a drought, they will go into what's called estivation in the summer. It's like hibernation, except it's in response to heat and drought. Then they have another weird adaptation. They, I forgot what it's called. For whatever reason, scientists don't really know the reasons, but they'll cover their body with saliva, and probably maybe related to drought conditions, and maybe related to self-defense, and it's called self-anointing. It's kind of weird when you look at it. Spread your body over saliva. I don't think I have enough to do that. Question.
It totally is, which hopefully protects them, right?
Oh, good question. That's some dye we put on him for identification purposes when we have 2 hedgehogs. Some species that we use as animal ambassadors, if we have 2 of them, yes, they can tell them apart, but we may not be able to. Sometimes we'll put a little harmless dye color on one of them so we can tell them apart.
He did a great job.
Yes, he did.
Weird.
And he didn't. He's enjoying his new freedom. Good fella, this is as far as it goes. You want to go? There he goes.
Yeah, that was it. That was it for Quilliam for the day.
Yeah.
We'll see him again at night.
Almost without exception, animals under human care and in the wild sleep a lot more than we do. Smart.
Yeah, super smart.
Okay,
All right.
I think we have one more special animal.
You guys ready for the last one? Yeah, all right. Okay, so I'll give I mean, we've seen a lot of really great animals today. This one sometimes, even though I think this is another cute as a button animal, just like William, sometimes this one can make feelings in us. Again, if you don't want me to give you a really close-up view, just give me a little thumbs down and not make a big reaction, just a thumbs down and I'll give you a bigger bubble. But the same thing, I'm gonna take this one out, I'm gonna introduce you, I'm gonna tell you what it is, and then I wanna see if you can come up, we've kind of learned some of the adaptations, right? We know that some of it can be camouflage, some of it can be a pokey modified hair, some of it can be a purple tongue. Let's see if we can figure out what the superpower is, what the adaptation is for this beautiful animal coming out next. Are we ready? He's not in there. No, just kidding, he's here. I got it, he's here. It never gets old, Bob. That one never gets old. All right. Okay, so this, I'm gonna introduce you, and then I'm gonna tell you what he is. And then let's see if we can come up with the superpower together. So same thing, I'll just take a minute and I'll walk around the whole room so everybody gets a really close-up view and can kind of make their scientific observations, and then we'll chat. So this is Madison. Everybody say hi, Madison. Hi, Madison. Madison is a red rat snake, sometimes referred to as a corn snake. Let's see if we can figure it out. So I'm gonna walk, if you give me a thumbs down, I'll just kind of, how about I stand like right up here? That way you can still look, but you know I'm not getting super close. So think of things that you wonder about. Maybe it is the beautiful color. Maybe you see a tongue. Is that because Madison's being rude? Or is that for something different? Maybe you see some scales. Maybe you see some feet or some teeth. We're thinking about observations, things that we wonder about that might be Madison's superpower. Little tiny face?
Yep.
Could that be? Could that be the adaptation? Your dad. He's great at exploring. He's doing a great job doing what he does best. Exploring the space, trying to figure out where he is. Walking around this way. Everybody okay with me walking down the aisle?
Yeah, sure. There he is. Big picture. Gotta be quicker. Corn snake is getting tired.
Checking everybody out. Yeah. Such a tiny little face. We're not gonna touch just because sometimes it can be overwhelming for if we have a bunch of people touching, sometimes they get a little bit nervous. Like it's kind of like going into like a family reunion and everybody coming to hug you all at once and you're like, whoa, that was a lot. All right, I have one more aisle to go down and then I can't wait to hear what you think about the adaptations of Madison, our corn / rat snake. It is, how long? That's a really good question. I would say that Madison is probably edging towards the 3-4 foot mark, but still has some growing to do. It's kind of hard because they
This is your lunch,
typically are
George.
like this.
That's your lunch, George.
Little snake? Yeah.
Have you?
All right, I'm opening up to the scientists. Who can raise their hand and tell me something that they noticed, something that they think might be an adaptation from Madison, the corn / red rat snake? What do we think? What do you think, buddy?
Half of his side is white, half of his side is dark.
I love that observation. When we look at Madison, the corn snake, half of him is light, like his underside, and half of him is a little bit darker. Why would that be? Are you ready for this? He has something that is called counter shading. Everybody say counter shading. You're gonna wow your grown-ups when you go home tonight at dinner and tell them all about counter shading. Counter shading means 2 types of camouflage. They have 2 different colors to camouflage with. This is really important for an animal like Madison, who sometimes likes to climb trees. Sometimes we find him up maybe on a tree branch or on a low bush, something like that, maybe to provide protection, maybe just to climb up because he thinks it's fun. But the way counter shading works is if I am Madison and I am up in a tree or on a tree branch and a predator looks up at me, or maybe my food looks up at me, hopefully what happens is my light colored belly blends in with the light colored sky. And if I am down on the ground and maybe a big bird is flying above me looking for a nice tasty snake and looks down, hopefully my red scales will blend in with the dirt. Do you think that that works here? Give me a thumbs up if you think that we have red dirt in Wisconsin. Give me a thumbs up if we have brown dirt in Wisconsin. So maybe that gives us a clue as to where Madison lives. Madison is not from here. Madison is not from Wisconsin. We can find rat snakes here in Wisconsin, but they are the color of our dirt. They are brown in color or black. This snake is red because he likes to live in the southern United States where their dirt has a reddish tint to it. So for Madison, our corn/rat snake, blending into that reddish colored dirt is really, really important. So this wouldn't work very well in Wisconsin with our dirt, but in our southern states, you can barely see him. Isn't that crazy? So counter shading means that lighter belly and the darker back, and the red color to blend into the red soil in the southern United States. A really great adaptation. What else do we notice? What else do we see Madison doing? Yeah.
He sticks out his tongue because he's trying to smell.
Oh my gosh, he sticks out his tongue because he's trying to smell. Everybody stick your tongue out. What do you smell? Hopefully nothing. Hopefully we're not smelling anything. What do we smell with? Yeah. Our noses. Madison can smell with his tongue. This adaptation is really cool because Madison doesn't have a tongue like we do. He has a forked tongue. So when he sticks out his tongue, he can smell things to the left and to the right of him. So he sticks out his tongue and he brings it back into his mouth and he processes the smell that he's picking up in the air and tries to figure out where his food is. What type of food do we think Madison, the corn/rat snake, might eat? Do we think pizza? Oh, it's really easy. How about chicken nuggets? No. How about chocolate cake?
No.
Probably not. What would a red rat snake like to eat? Any guesses on red rat snake? Yes. Rats! He loves to eat rats. The reason that Madison has two, he loves to be really squiggly right now. I think he's trying to get inside my sweatshirt. The reason that Madison has two different names is because he is a red rat snake that likes to eat rats and mice, but he's a corn snake because he loves to live in corn fields. He is really, really important for us as humans and for his habitat because he controls a population of rats and mice that sometimes carry disease. This isn't the rats and mice that we might have as pets at home. This is a different kind of rat and mice that live out in the wild and can make humans really sick. So when Madison is down on his reddish corn floor environment, looking for those snakes, looking for those rats and mice, he is protecting humans at the same time. He loves to eat rats and he loves to eat mice. Remember, those adaptations can hide right in their name. So when we look at Madison, look how tiny his little head is. Did everybody notice how tiny his little head is? How could he ever fit a mouse or a rat inside that mouth? Any ideas? This is my last super fun observation. It's a really tiny face to be able to fit a big rat inside. What do we think? Any ideas? Yeah, all the way in the back.
Maybe his teeth could dig it up.
Maybe his teeth what?
Maybe if he had teeth, he could dig it up.
Yeah, maybe his teeth dig it up. Maybe that is how. Maybe he has special adaptations in his teeth. I love that idea. Any other ideas? What do you think?
He has the jaws that open really wide on his teeth.
He has a really special jaw. That is exactly. So when we think about a human jaw and we feel where our jaws come together, we have a hinge there. So we can only open a certain amount. Well, Madison, it's almost like he's got rubber bands there. And so when he sees a mouse or a rat that he wants to eat, he can open up his mouth super, super big to fit it in. When we feel our chins, our chin is one bone. Madison has two. So if I felt Madison's chin, he would be able to open up his chin extra wide. So not only is he opening this way, but he's opening this way and becoming really, really big. Madison can eat anything that is the size of the thickest part of his body. So right now he's pushing on, that's a pretty good sized mouse, maybe a small rat that he's getting fed at the zoo. If we were able to do that, I could eat maybe an extra large watermelon. I could fit a watermelon in my mouth and swallow it whole. So Madison doesn't chew his food. He uses those special teeth and kind of walks the animal inside his mouth and digests it whole. There's no bites that he's taking. He's just eating the whole thing whole. Isn't that amazing? Any questions about Madison before he goes and takes a break?
What happens to the bones? Are they digested as well, or are they spit out?
From what I know, they are digested as well, which is crazy. There might be pieces of them. Every now and then, they grace us with a little poop on the road. And I've never seen pieces in it. It just kind of looks like poop. So they do, and figure he is digesting the whole time it's heading towards his tail. So it's a long digestion process for him. So he really does break a lot of the pieces down. I would imagine as maybe food gets bigger, maybe we find more chunkiness to it. It's right before, nobody's eaten yet, right? That's a really good question. Yeah. Does Madison have fangs like other snakes? Madison has teeth just like other snakes do. Bob and I always like to say that anything that has a mouth could bite. Madison could bite, but when he sticks his tongue out and he's looking for food and he looks at me, am I the size of his food? Am I this big? I'm much bigger. So Madison looks at me and says, you know what, I know that's not my food, so I'm really not interested in her that way. Maybe if I bathed in bacon, then he'd be like, maybe she's the one. But I'm way too big for his food. The only reason that Madison would really ever want to maybe take a nip at me is if I was handling him poorly, incorrectly. If I was making him feel nervous, if I was pulling on his tail or poking at his face, then he might get a little nervous and think, wait a minute, Darcy was my friend, but now is she a predator? Is she coming to eat me? That's the only time that Madison would ever look at me and be like, maybe I should show her that I'm a snake and I really don't want to get eaten. Madison has never, ever taken a nip out of me. Madison is also non-venomous. If Madison was a venomous snake, I would have Bob handle Madison. I don't handle the venomous ones. So, non-venomous. So that means that instead of using venom, like we think of a lot of snakes using, he likes warm hugs. He's a constrictor snake. So when he finds something that he likes to eat, he gives him a nice warm hug, and then an even bigger hug, and an even bigger hug, and tries to make it so that his food isn't breathing, and then he eats it. Isn't that crazy? What a crazy way to eat your food. Any other questions before we wrap it up? Is everybody good? Okay, Madison's going in. All right. So this is where Bob and I get to say thank you to all of you for coming to our program. So we had to learn today about a lot of different adaptations, those features in an animal that makes them really special. So we learned about Madison being able to maybe camouflage, use that red color to camouflage into the dirt, using his tongue to smell. We learned about Myrtle and how she used that purple tongue as a warning sign. We even learned about Thelma, our box turtle, and how she can use that shell to camouflage, she can use it for protection, and she can hibernate in the tough winters in Wisconsin. All of the animals that we come in contact with have an adaptation that helps them survive out in their native habitat. I love to say, pushing my little conservation, I love to say that conservation starts by learning. You've all taken the first step in conservation just by coming here today and learning about these four animals and how special and how different and unique they all are. Hopefully tonight you go home to your humans at home and tell them all about your favorite animal that you met, your favorite animal ambassador, and teach them a couple fun facts, and then go back and learn even more. Sometimes I like to send people back to their gardens. Going back to your school garden, or your garden in your backyard, or your community garden can help these animals out a lot, making sure that they always have a place to come and to live and to find their food and to hang out. So those are just some special ways that we can help animals. Does anybody have any other ways that they like to help the environment or conserve at home? What do you do at home? Picking up trash in the wild is a huge deal. That means that animals aren't eating it and it's not messing up their homes. I love that idea. We can all go out and pick up trash. What's another way? Any other ways that you do it? Yeah. Anything that you do, maybe you, or you use a water bottle? Yeah. Some of us use water bottles. I see a lot of water bottles here today. Using a reusable water bottle and filling it up instead of using a plastic water bottle can make a huge difference in our communities. Some of these simple steps make a really big difference here in Madison and all over the world. So keep learning, keep exploring, and keep picking up trash because it makes a big difference. Thank you so much for joining us today. Like I said, if you have any other questions,